Slipknot are one of those big and influential heavy metal bands that really have shaped what we understand as the genres in heavy metal in the last couple of years, which has led to a state where you see a lot of individuals and a lot of reviewers and a lot of outlets praising them to the ends of the earth without having the balls to say anything against them, because otherwise they will get insane amounts of hate. So don't look in the comment section, because I don't absolutely love this album. I don't think it's bad, but I don't absolutely love it. The End, so far, is an experimental album, borrowing from all sorts of things, classical Slipknot, things that they've done over and over again in the past, but also like all the way from deathcore to David Bowie. You really have everything on this album, which makes for some interesting and experimental cuts that I wouldn't have expected, and makes for a really unique and diverse Slipknot album experience that I haven't had like this in the past. I was really blown away by the opening song Adderall, not because it's necessarily good, but because I didn't expect them to have the balls to start out the Slipknot song with something that's not a banger, but with an actual like emotional and slow building song, which is nothing they've ever done before. This is something that ties itself through the entire record. You will always have songs that are the classic idea of what Slipknot is, songs like basically every single single, but you also have things that go into more experimental directions, just like I mentioned Adderall, for example, like the closing track, Finale, and it does make for an album that feels more diverse than what they've done in the past, but it also makes for an album that feels very disjointed at times and doesn't really flow well together, as, for example, their last album did. The songwriting on here is great and interesting and innovative, which is not something that they've been really known for in the past. They've always had interesting songs, but the song structure and the overall writing has never been too much straying from the path. This is different. This album is definitely different, and it's a lot because they experimented with all those different influences, and I really congratulate them for doing that. Instrumentally, this entire album is really well done, except for the guitars, because they are exceptionally well done. There are some solos on here that are just insane, and some of the riffs, they really make you go Corey Taylor, as always, Corey Taylor's, and makes for a good vocalist that's versatile and can switch into anything that a certain song needs at any time without any issue. If all of the things that I just said are true, and this album does have all those positive aspects, and why did I start the video by saying that I would get a lot of hate from you guys in the comments? That's because there's one big problem with the album, and that's the mixing. It's absolutely off. With so many band members, you will always be walking a thin line, but in the past, more specifically on their last record, they have managed to walk that thin line to perfection and make the mix and the mastering sound like there's a focus point, like there's a purpose behind the mix and master, and you felt like you were actually understanding the song. But on this new album, everything feels so convoluted in the mix, and everything is happening all at once, which makes for something that sounds a lot heavier, but not heavy in a good way, because heavy doesn't automatically equal good. It sounds just convoluted, like too much at once is happening, and you can't really register anything because there's no clear focus point. There are slower songs where this issue is not as apparent, but if you really listen to the mix and master on more of the heavier songs, specifically the singles, you really have to wonder why they looked at that, listened to that, and thought to themselves, oh yeah, we're gonna release that like it is. The biggest issue here is really the drums. Even though they are played perfectly without a doubt, the mix makes a mockery of them, and they really sound awful, which makes a record that is technically great, but ruined by the mix and master, specifically by the drums. Remind anyone else of anything? While the bass material and the creativity are definitely here, the overall product feels rough around the edges, and not in a cool, intentional, rough around the edges kind of way, more in a, this album could have used another 1 or 2 months in the writing process, and then definitely in the mixing. This is unfortunately a step down from We Are Not Your Kind, at least in my opinion, even though all the creativity and all the potential for a better album would have been there. Feeling kind of torn between a kind of 6 or 7, currently going more with the 6 for this record, but let me know what you guys think in the comments down below, and if you want to listen to some better records, at least according to my opinion, check out those 2 videos.